Well, hello there. It's time for Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 11M4, The Emperor Provokes Luke. Music by John Williams, orchestrated by Herb Spencer. So, I thought we'd do something a little bit different today because, as you can see, it's not annotated. But I have copied it from my score, which is here. So this is the reduction at this point. So I thought I'd actually take you through what I do to analyse things, because it's so short, it's only 15 bars, to kind of just show you what I'm doing. So the first thing to do is to hide all those bar numbers, the bars rests. So I'll just select all, I go into the filter, which is there, do that, do that, do that. Oh, no, wrong thing. Do that, get rid of that, do that, and press the backspace button, and they're gone. And then I just sort of like spread out things and start putting in stuff that I haven't done. That's a bass drum. That's the harp. We've got that there. Cello's divided at that point. Quarter tone vibrato on both cellos and double basses. That's kind of obvious. We've got violin 1, violin 2, viola's there. VC1, VC2, and double basses there. This is the original version, not the one in the film. So I will do the film version as well. We'll do that in a minute, which is here. So let's just go VC DB. And that's all of what that is. So violin 1, A3, violin 2, which are these ones, I think. I think violin 2 is just one note, and then violin violas are 2, and then that's cello. So it's really weird. Anyway, that's the edit for the film, so we won't concentrate too much on that. Yeah, let's dive into it. So we're in G. So G minor based. Let's do that. Let's put that down there, and then let's just scramble the text a little bit. So I tend to do that kind of point 12, bolden, colorize it. And of course we've got the Emperor's theme, so let's do that. And I put a little highlight there, and then I tend to, let's go back up to text. Theme, the Emperor. Sometimes it's difficult to see what I've just written, so I need to kind of home into what I'm doing. So it's a little bit more fiddly than just doing the... there we go. And then I just make that emboldened. Strange. Oh, doesn't want to do the shortcut, never mind. There we go, and just make it a bit bigger. There we go. So let's do some chords. So Command K, whoops. Command K, chord. And then we're in B flat minor. Like that. Let's just make sure it's spaced out. Strange. Oh, it's because it's a different thing. Lots of diminished chords at that point. So then I do that, filter out the chords, and do that, and that's done. And then we just have an A-C dyad. So let's just write that in A-C. Oh. Right, I did that. A, C dyad. And then we got an A, B dyad here because we got A and B's. And then we got an O1, 3, 4. So it could be that or whatever. So it could be any sort of manner of things, but basically that collection. So we can have a look at pitch class at that point, and just to give us a little help if we need it. So I'm just putting in the notes in there. But we've also so we've also got that. So actually that looks like a non-atonic thing actually. Yeah, it's not quite 9/12. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. It's silly. So I don't want to do subset. I want to go that. 8/22 is octatonic, interestingly. So there is a sort of octatonic element within it, because we got both. It's just more of a sort of collection of you know, a sort of combination sound, not really worth theorizing about it too much. But we can kind of call it octatonic based, simply because it's a subset of those. But it could also be just A minor. Although that doesn't explain this. So do you see what I mean by it being... I'm just choosing the B arbitrarily and then just adding those. So it's sort of then... So it's a sort of unusual sort of set. 9/11. Okay, so let's just do that for ease, and then let's just get rid of that tie, do a sort of proper laissez-faire. What else have I got? Okay, so now we need a little bit more reduction at this point. So yeah, so I'm just sort of collecting all the notes that I've got in there. So that's not really helping us, and there's also an A in there as well. So yeah, I'm going to need my little pitch class set again, just to sort of see what it could be. So in terms of the entire collection, and then we can sort of, you know, go from there and see what else there is to be seen. So if I do that here, I know you can't see it at the moment on the screen, but I'm just sort of adding in all the notes. So I've got A in the bass, always count up, F and D flat. I've already got the D flat, I've got an E there, we've already got the F, we need a C. We've already got that, and then G and a D sharp. So what does that give us? Set 726 is that whole thing. Doesn't really... I'm just putting it in there just to say that we've got it, but it doesn't really help us. Is there a superset that it's part of? Let's go to octatonics. No, it's not. It's not 8/28. Let's go to nonatonic. Is it a 9/12? Yes. Interestingly enough, it is a subset of the third mode of limited transposition. It's just missing that note, I believe, or it could be one of those if we reduce it even further. Let's just do that and see what comes out. And then that one, missing two notes, 9/12, yeah. So it's sort of a subset of a nonatonic subset. So that's interesting, because we know that he does occasionally use that. Third mode of limited transposition. There we go. However, it doesn't really tell us very much, so let's see whether we can kind of work out what's going on just in the bass. So it's sort of a Phrygian type thing, isn't it? So let's see whether we can put this into a sensible order. So it's sort of augmented. So we've already got that D flat. We don't have the E. So it's that. Let's just see whether it picks up anything. Otherwise we're going to just have to analyse it ourselves, I think. That's not really helpful. Yeah, that's more like it. Because we've got... Well... Yeah, actually that does work, weirdly. It's because it's got a major seventh. I'm not sure whether that's the best way of doing it. Because it supposes that we've got a G sharp in there, which we don't have, I don't think. Because we just got that. So, yeah, it's not really the correct chord symbol analytically for it. So let's see whether we can do something better. So it's a D flat sharp 5 with a major 7 and a sharp 9. Whoops. Sharp 9. So that's... it still comes out the same, doesn't it? Well, there we go. I suppose you omit the 5th as well. That's as good as any. Whoops. I didn't want to do that. There we go. So let's just colorise that. So we've got that going on. And obviously it's in second inversion as well. So it's even more bonkers. And then it's sort of the same thing here. And that basically continues. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, fascinating chord. So it's slightly different on the change. So let's have a look at that. Not sure what this is really adding too much in terms of, you know, in other words, it's just a very complex chord. Let's just call it that. And it's derived, I guess, with a little pivot note in here. It is sort of third mode of limited transposition based. So there are all of these sort of, you know, that sort of thing. It's going to have that quality to it anyway. So let's again count up in this one because we got sort of slightly different notes at this point. So we got an A, we've got the F and the D flat. We've also got a C. We've also got an E. What else have we got? E flat and a B flat. That comes out at 7Z38. There we go. Whoops, I'll just go to that. Is it an octatonic subset? No. It doesn't have 828. Is it non-atonic subset? 912. No, not even that. So it's a sort of arbitrary kind of atonal pitch collection. And at this point, it's the same thing, but with an added E flat. So that's an added 9th as well. So another 9th on there. So plus 9, and I think it's a plus 6 as well, so plus 13 at that point, because we've also got a B flat there, which is 6 notes above. Yeah, so there we go. Hilarious. Love it. And then we end up on D. D unison. So that's a little bit of the harmony done, and now we need to work out what's going on. So we have our standard Emperor's theme. It's interesting how some of it is slightly differently orchestrated. We got very slow quarter tone vibrato here, so it's sort of you know, this sort of idea. Can't really do it on a sort of pitch wheel. That's quite funny. Just let's change that to C sharp. There. I'm sure that was obviously irritating a few people. Yeah. like that. That's our sort of chord progression. So lots of tertiary things going on. It's almost like the hackneyed, like that. It's sort of that. It's a derivation of it. I wonder whether that was sort of in Williams's mind, just tapping into that sort of psychology of the Emperor as the most evil character in the whole sort of thing. I don't know. We'll never know, but it's interesting to speculate about it. And once that theme ends, it's this pure sort of, I guess you might call it sort of Mickey Mousing, but in terms of, you know, he's drawing the lightsaber, he's tempting him. There's a sort of hesitation. And then we've got this sort of complex chord at this point. Ba-bum, ba-bum, little sort of calls. And then it ends on D, which is interesting. I think in the original, not the original, but in the film version, there's a slightly different ending. So let me try and see whether I can get just to the ending. It's about sort of 15 seconds in. Nope. Let's go back a little bit further. Yeah, so we're here. I'm going to go on to the next page. That's that. Yeah, just forgot the horns at that point, didn't I? So let's do that. You can see where the edit is. And I'm not quite sure where that comes from. Somebody will be able to let me know. You know, it's edited for the film, so it's not the original, which is a shame because I think the original is actually better. At that point, it's just it's just too long, basically. So obviously they needed to cut it. So that is it. That's all there is. It's just 15 bars, and then the 3 extra things that we had as well. I haven't analysed this yet, so let me just quickly do that. So that's sort of the same as we had before, octatonic based. That's so small you can't really see it, so make it a bit bigger. Make it a bit bigger there as well for my patrons. And then let's just get rid of the background for that. Otherwise it's quite difficult to see. I think it's easier there. So yeah, what is this chord? Let's have a look. Wow. So yeah, definitely need a pitch class set analysis of that as well before we do any sort of standard harmonic stuff, just to see whether it's part of a you know, a scale or a mode or that sort of thing, because he does write modally a lot of the time. So F sharp, G sharp, we've got C, we've got F sharp, we've already got that, we've got G natural as well, and an E, and I think we've also got D sharp going on in here. E and G, we've already got those notes, and we've got the C. What is that? That is 6/15. So we know what that means is that sometimes we can see that it's a subset of anything. So if 720 came up, that would be a subset of an interesting one, Hungarian minor. Is it octatonic? It doesn't feel octatonic, and no, it's not. Is it a subset of a non-atonic one, 912? Yes, it is. But it's missing so many notes, it's a little bit redundant to kind of say that. So we then have a look at what 6/15 is. I don't think there's any sort of specific thing about that particular set. So pitch class set list. So we go to a list of set classes, look down at 6/15, see if there's anything special about it. I don't think there is. No. So you'll see 6/15, 15B, 6, 7, 8. I mean, you can see there's a little bit of, you know, system in there in terms of what's going on. 6, 7, 8. It's missing 1, 3, 4. So there's a slight hint of octatonicism, if you see what I mean, but not quite. It's just not quite there. But it does, yeah, but it's still interesting nonetheless. These little pitch sets. It's also not a polychord particularly, I don't think. It's just an interesting collection. So we've got sort of C major in there, because we've got our C. So we could base it on that, but that seems a bit arbitrary as well. Now I'm trying to make them... I think that's it. We've got the... Yeah, it's highly chromatic. So it's almost a cluster. It's almost a collection of sort of white notes and black notes, actually. Yeah, so that's interesting. So we got C major, and then we've also got that sort of E flat, D sharp area, F sharp, and a G sharp as well. Yeah, so really chromatic. So let's just call it that. Oops. More of a chromatic collection. So we've got a little C, E, G with D sharp. Whoops. F sharp, G sharp. There we go. So I suppose you could sort of call it add, you know, sharp 5, you know, add sharp 11, you know, that sort of thing, add sharp 9. It doesn't really help us, I don't think. What's interesting is that often he spans, you know, that sort of minor 9th or major 7th. So yeah, it just sounds sort of exotic, basically, I think is more to the point. One of those ones which is just a standalone chord, you know, with a little bit of sort of repeated, you know, pitches in there somewhere, if you see what I mean. So that's it, really. 15 bars with a few little hints of sort of unusual chord shapes and voicings in there as well. Let's just get rid of some of the redundant stuff. At that point, that should be double F. Is there anything else? Let's have a look at the orchestration. Not really. You know, a lot of the bassoons are just sort of doing what the cellos are doing, although they don't always change notes. So, for example, when this moves down to an F, they don't. I don't know whether that's actually a mistake or not, actually. So in the copy of the score I've got, that doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure it should do. Otherwise it seems a bit strange. We could just listen to the recording at this point. I'm going to try and turn it up. Yeah, I mean, even here, I'm not really getting a sense of that continual G, but that is what's written in Herb's score. Yeah, it's a G. That's really interesting. I could just hear it right at the very, very end of that. Just that string in the right ear, just sort of bumbling out. Can't hear the first one though, but I'm sure it must be correct. Whoops. Let's go back again. Yes, I can actually hear the G now. So that's a really interesting sort of little bit of unusual orchestration where we've almost got two bass lines and they're kind of smudged. You know, it's almost as if at this point there's not really a harmonic element to the bass. That's a strange thing to say, but it's already been tampered with because of the quarter tone vibrato. So it's already got a, or this sort of humming type of idea, and it's almost like a sort of reverberation of the bass drum effect. We've then got a little splash of harp colour on here when it's just all triads, and this is where we've got contrabass, bass clarinet. So it's a slight difference of voicing at that point. Otherwise, anything else to speak of? Not really. We've got sort of horns in unison with dyads at that point. Let's have a quick look at the strings. So, as with a lot of this, it's sort of divided. It's like cellos are with everything else. It's just an interesting chord shape. Like that. So here he's just pricking out some of the notes. Like that. Then we got the F of that. And then in the synth, probably an ARP, I'd imagine. Not sure why we got that going on there. Obviously put it in the wrong place to begin with. A little bit of xylophone to help with the wind. Like that, and then we get the same thing when we get the flutes and the piccolo in. Like that. Very high horns at that point as well. And that's kind of it. Again, the resonance is quite interesting. We got tremolo at that point. We got muted stuff going on as well, just to sort of blend in. Like that. But that's about it. So a slightly longer thing than I thought it was going to be, but still pretty short and sweet.